Our first experiment was the measurement lab, and we learned about sig figs, using significant figures when taking measurements, and also some different techniques. Anyway, you need to be able to count significant figures and know that these zeros in the front, leading zeros, never count as significant figures. Ending zeros count if the decimal place is shown, which what this one does, and everything else counts as a sig fig. So this answer has 5 sig figs, or significant figures. You need to be able to add and subtract or multiply and divide using significant figures. Okay, so once you add and subtract, you look at how far the numbers extend to the right of the decimal. And this top number only extends one place past the decimal to the 10th place. So that's where I'm going to cut off my answer. It doesn't matter that these numbers lost sig figs. We had 4 sig figs and 4 sig figs. Our answer only has 3. When you add and subtract, the number of sig figs can increase or decrease. Of course, when you multiply and divide, you look at the 2 numbers that are used. The one with the least sig figs tells you how many you should have in your answer. So be aware of both rules. Next, you're going to need to know how to write the correct number of sig figs when you're taking a measurement. On a digital display, you just write down every digit it gives you, but you need to also be able to read a burette or a graduated cylinder. Now this one's a burette, and besides it telling me, I can see that it has 0 at the top, which is different, of course, opposite than a graduated cylinder. So when I read this, you may know that on a meniscus, you're going to read from the lowest point. So not just like in the middle of that dark line, but at the very bottom edge where it goes from dark to white. That's where I'm reading for. And on this one, it lines up, that bottom edge lines up with this line here. Okay, so to read this, again, I'm noting that 0 is at the top, so I'm counting down. I know for sure that the first digit is 0 because there's a line for 0 and a line for 1, and I see that it's in between that. The next digit, I see that it falls right on that line, and if I count, that is the 0.4 line. Okay, so for both of those, there was a line. And then I need to estimate one more digit between lines. And since this one falls right on a line, I need to estimate that digit. I'm going to say 0. Okay, so to know how many digits to write, you look at the lines, and if they represent tenths, then you estimate hundreds. If the smallest line represents hundredths, then you estimate thousands. Anyway, one passed. Something you'll have to spend some time on is reviewing the techniques given in the procedure of the lab manual. Let me show you where that is. In the lab manual, in the background, it gives you a lot of background information about the different types of equipment, but the techniques are within the procedure. So like here is a technique, and so you can kind of watch for that word in these boxes. There's the ice bath, thermometer. These are the techniques, and look at them all that you'll be quizzed on in the lab test. So let's answer this question. If I push tear, would I ever push tear before placing an object on? Yes. And notice that tear and 0 mean the same thing. So I would definitely do this. Would I place something hot on the balance? No. Always let something cool before you put it on the balance. Would I ever push tear with an object on the pan? Yes, that is in fact a technique of zeroing a container. We would do that with using weighing paper. So be sure to, that'll take you some time, go through those techniques and make sure you understand what you should and shouldn't do in each case.